Welcome to the channel all about economic board games. Today I'm bringing you an overview of Ark Nova. If you're after a run through, check out a video I'll be bringing you guys next week. Now we've got the designer at the top here and it's brought to you by these guys at the bottom. Now this plays 1 to 4, so there's that solo option as well. It's heavy complexity, and in this game it says it takes about 90 minutes to 150. I think you're looking at probably 2.5 hours plus, sometimes 3.5 hours. And in this game we'll be running zoos. You can see in front of us here you've got this sort of area. This is map A, which is kind of what you start with. Now I shall say I will not be able to get through everything in this game. It's an overview. There is a lot of finicky things here and there, but once you get through it, it's it feels streamlined, and the actions are literally the crux of the game is these 5 actions, and it really does a great job of explaining everything on the boards itself with all the iconography and how these words are bold and what have you. But the gist of the game is you've got this player board here. You are trying to build more enclosures in your area. You'll hopefully get some of these bonuses as you cover them up. You'll then try to put animals into these enclosures and turn them over, and doing so adds more animals into your zoo, which gives you more appeal. And as you acquire more appeal on this track here, you get more income. So you can see this appeal of 10 will give us 12 income when it comes to the completion of this break track, and depending on your player count, once you get to here, which is triggered by certain cards, we'll play out this. So in terms of the flow of the game, let's just say yellows go first. They pick one of these cards, the strengths, which will be crucial. So let's just say they use this card here, a strength for 3, and I'll go through what building does in a minute. They play out the action, they move these up, and this card now goes right to the bottom and only has a strength of 1. So this is interesting play of what action you want to take at what strength. So if you decide to take, this card's action, which is the only card here which has the break, so it sort of moves that break token along, and then once you've done that action, you bring all these down and you carry on. So yeah, yellow picks an action, they move that down, then literally red would go next in this sort of 2-player setup. Red takes, say, this card, brings that one up, and you can see the power play of which cards to play when. And that would keep on going. Yellow would go next, then red, yellow. And the only way you're going to have this sort of break is when this token, as I just said, gets all the way down to here. Whoever triggers it gets this little bonus icon of a token. And you play out this, you reduce your hand size to this, you get rid of tokens, you replenish this kind of association board, which I'll go through. You discard cards from this rather large track of open cards there, and then you get your income from various spaces as well. So what are these actions? And I guess the first thing you may want to consider is building more enclosures. So you can see here you can build one building up to the size of the strength, so it's a size 2, and it's going to cost you 2 per space. We start with some money at the top here, and I'll go through what some of these areas do as well. So let's just say it tells you in bold, which is really nice, what you can build. So let's just say we wanted to build, we can build up to a 2. We look at all these tokens which are nicely in these organizers, and we go, right, we want to build this 2 here. So we now have used the card, we push it back down to the number 1 here, and this is bumped up that action. Now this 2, you obviously haven't put an animal in it yet, and let's just say that never had an animal either. You have to put it adjacent to a building you've already built. So let's just say we go here, and we're going to get the bonus underneath, which is that's a money symbol, so we get 5 money. Now where you place these is kind of determined by the cards you have, because certain animals might want to be next to water, ones might want to be next to the rocks. So there's a bit of information as to where requirements as to where you might want to put these and what size. So there's no animals in there yet as you're building these enclosures. So let's take a look at the animals then. So you've used the build option, that's that one. The animals one, you play animals from your hand. Now depending on the strength, you can see a strength of 4 is going to let us play 1. So let's just go and have a look at a few of these animal cards here. So here we go, we have got the Northern giraffe. Now you can see information at the top left is requirements. You can see, let me just put this separate. You're going to have an enclosure of a size 3 or more. So we have got that free. You're going to need to pay 16 coins. Now, if you did have one of these symbols here at the top as an association, which is one of these here, you actually get a discount, and you can see that on your board there, -3 for each icon, which we haven't got just yet. And these symbols are key because they let you try and attain certain conservation projects, which I'll go through. And if you do put this, you get the bonus as well of 7 appeal, which is how you're attracting tourists and visitors, so we say, into your zoo, because everyone wants to come and see the giraffe. And you get to play out this particular bonus as well. Now you can stash these in front of your zoo, so you can keep an eye on what symbols you're acquiring, and that's how you get animals. So you've turned over this size 3 here, and that's important because not only do you get more appeal, and you bump this up here, which potentially gets you more income on the break phase, but you can see we are next to a kiosk, and when it comes to the break phase, the more of these enclosures that have animals in next to this will get us an income with 1 each per enclosure. And as the more enclosures you get across, you can see all these juicy bonuses. You're going to have to unlock them by flipping the cards as well. So that's how you get the animals out. How are you going to get more animals then? This is the cards action. So at the moment it's on strength 2, and you can see you do the break and you get to draw, in this case, 1 card, and you don't have to discard any. You can see as you get this higher up on the strength track, let's just say you get to level 5. Let's move all these down. So you've taken it from level strength 5. You can draw 3 cards and have to discard 1, or you could snap. So in terms of where you draw these cards from, there is, oh, they shouldn't be there. There's a massive deck here, and these contain, so I'm skipping ahead, 3 main cards. There is animals, there is conservation projects, which are these kind of green looking ones here, which I'll go through, and there is these kind of sponsor cards as well, which are in blue. So that's the 3 main types of card in here. So you draw 2, or was it 3? It was 2, wasn't it? Yep, you draw 2, 3 should I say, 3 with the level 5 strength, and you discard 1. Or you could use this snap option, and this snap option was where you get to take any 1 card from these 6 files here. So I should probably go through what these files are. You got 1 to 6, and depending on your reputation, which is irrelevant for this option, you can just take 1 from whenever. But later on, let's just say you've turned this card over, you've upgraded it to level 2. You can see now you can draw cards within your reputation range. So as you boost this up, you've got these 3 files open. You have got a little cost to pay if you decide to take one, so free money here. But you've got options to take these animals that you have open information to on the board, rather than just a random luck of what you draw from. So that kind of brings us on to upgrading these cards. So on every single one of these cards, you get, you know, an additional benefit. Whereas where we the build one, for example, you could build 1 building, but when you turn it over, you can build 1 or more different buildings, and the large bird aviary and the reptile house become available, and it kind of shows you all that information on here as well. So you've done your buildings, you put your animals in there, you know how to acquire more animals and different projects and sponsors. And let's just say you had acquired a sponsor. How are you actually going to play it? Well, you're going to do this sponsor option, and it says you can play 1 sponsor with a minimum level, maximum level of where you are. So it's 4 in this case. So let's just say we did have this native birds one here. You can see it needed to be at a level 5 to acquire it, but we could have spent these little X tokens. You can have a max of 5 and they bump it up, so we could spend that. Even though it's at level 4, it's actually a strength of 5, having spent those extra tokens. So we spend that one, and you can see here, yep, we want to play this native birds. We've got the requirement of 5. It says you need a maximum of 25. So looking at your appeal, there's a little 25 marker there. If you go beyond that, you can't actually play this one. And it lets you put an extra tile out. It sort of says instant benefits and ongoing things. So you gain 1 appeal for each connected water space. Nice. And you got this end game one as well by this little sort of timer. So yeah, a host of information on there, all goodies. And you're trying to, there's things like extra playgrounds you can get out, and a host of things that are allowing you to attain more income. So this is the sponsor card, or you could literally, let's see, why have I put that there? Depending on where this come from, so it's a strength of 5, wasn't it? You can gain income of 5, but you have to move that break icon. And you can see once it hits this point, we're going to go again through all these like we mentioned prior. What else have we got? I think the last one is association. So this one is all about you can perform one task dependent on the strength. So let's just say it was number 2. Now I should add that when you do this, you're going to put it back down to the beginning. So the association board, what have we got going on here? Now you can see the strengths you need. So you need 2 to go here, and you've got some dudes on your board, and you take ones that are available so you can acquire more as you go throughout the game. So if you wanted to acquire that, let's just say you did get your conservation up here, you can see that little plus symbol means you can bring one of these from the bottom into your available network there. So we are off out to associate with other zoos potentially, or other universities. So if we did go here, we get 2 up on the reputation track. That's great, that goes up, which means we've got more options when we decide to get cards potentially. If we did go here with a level 3, we can take one of these. Let's just say we went for the the Americas. You put this on your player board at the bottom working up. It now gives us a discount of 3 when we see this symbol here. So let's just say we'd taken the African symbol and we decided to build this at some point. You can see we'll get a reduction of 3 for each of those symbols. And as you acquire more of these, you got this benefit here, which allows you to flip one of those cards. That's how you're going to achieve that. Now to keep on going and get more benefits, you're having to have this card flipped over. Where's that one? That's this one here. So once that's turned over 2, you now have the capability to do more associations with zoos. This one's about universities. You take these, you do exactly the same thing. You work your way up, potentially get more bonuses. As you get these out, you get more bonuses as well. And this final one, which is quite important, this is how you get the chance to offer your services, and what your zoo is helping to the conservation of animals on this green track. And to do so, you have the option of either taking one of these tokens from here and you put it on one of these base conservation projects. So let's just say we took this token here. We have the option to either go for one of these recurring ones, which will play out in the break phase. We could potentially get more income, more movement on the conservation track. Or if we just really needed, a boost in our money, we could take this one and it's an instant hit. And this would go on one of these that we can fulfill. So let's just say we had 4 of these Australia icons, put one on there. We move 4 up on the track up here. 1, 2, 3, 4 would have acquired one of these bonuses. So we went for 2 more training, that comes off, and then we go up 2 more on here as well. 1, 2, which would get us the flip. So then we choose one of these cards and we're like, okay, we'll flip this one. So it's kind of got this Ganjon clever aspect to it for those who are familiar with that game. So that was the association board. You could also play your own associations from your hand. So let's try and find one of those. Let's just say you had this one in your hand. You could decide to play it, and you can see the spots at the top depending on player count. It goes from left, and then it'll work its way to the right as more come in and bump it up. And you can put your tokens on here as well, and you can get more of these conservation. You can boost that on the track and extra goodies as well. Wow, there's a lot going on, folks. So you literally keep going. This player takes an action, bumps it down, next player goes, and once that break track hits, you go through all these things I've said, how to get your income, and eventually someone will pass on the appeal. Once the appeal passes, say here, you'll figure out the difference. So 88, the lowest one, from 92 would be 4. You figure out any end game bonuses that have pushed this further. So you do start with 2 at the beginning of the game. You can see this one. You gain more of these conservation, a movement on the track for large animals. You can see this one, that you gain more for sponsored cards. So if you've got 6 sponsored cards in your zoo, you're going to get 2 movement on this, which you go boom, boom. And then you can see your gap is now from 82 to 92, which is a gap of 10. And whoever has the highest gap will be the winner. So there is a lot going on here, but basically you're trying to get all the animals, all the enclosures to allow them in there, get your income up through the appeal, and eventually match that appeal and surpass the conservation track, and hopefully have a bigger gap than your opponents. There we are, folks. A cracking game. So much goodness in this, and it literally does feel like sometimes you're playing a massive complex game of Ganjon Clever. There we are. Enjoy.